The hang-up's on the air. Woohoo.
There's some beers over there and some coffee. Get ready to open.
Oh, hi John. Long time no see.
Any luck else? Any luck?
I started the broadcast,
Yep.
and I haven't been able to figure out how to get that to connect to this. And I tried to find the other end of this, and of course underneath the table, and it's dark, and I don't know what I'm looking for. So I don't know. We may have to huddle around the laptop screen. This is. Can you say suboptimal?
Well, you would want the video.
If you can see where this, that would be wonderful. Thanks, Alan.
This help there.
Perlmongers?
Which one do we got?
Yeah, it's this one here.
Okay. It's pretty slow. It's not, it's like it's clamped. You see it moving there?
It's sort of wrapped around.
You maybe see if it's not plugged in correctly or something.
There we are.
No, but
No.
No, that's not, oh, sorry.
But couldn't we just join the same hangout?
so we won't be able to record that.
Apparently this.
But why we could try the recording on my.
No, it's recording on my. It's recording their Perlmongers account. That's no problem. Recording is not an issue, but what I want to do is be able to display this up there. Plan B would be, can we access the Perlmongers? We can't. Okay.
Just the meet one. Can only join the meet.
Okay. Well, we're going to. Oh, there's the chat window. There we go. I'm expecting Fulco. I've just sent the URL, so I'm just going to check email and see if it actually went out to the list.
We'll be able to do it.
Looks like it has not gone out yet. Okay, I may not have sent it to the correct list. Oh. Toronto PM at pm.org.
But oh, but it's not going to show on the big screen. That's the problem right now.
Yeah, yeah.
And here's like there, yeah.
That's only HDMI we have.
I can try with my computer just to see if HDMI will work with it. I mean, we'll not have a recording, but at least we'll be able to.
No, it's doing a recording. It's I'm sure it's fascinating.
Or alternatively, Alex, we could try the Meet URL, and then I can try to screen capturing it here and then upload it to the YouTube account. No one's like,
Yeah.
Or it's not trouble with the YouTube or anything, it's just trouble with displaying on the big monitor.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, well, I'm just gonna go ahead with my presentation, which as if tonight isn't enough stress, I'm also doing a presentation. So I'm going to go and do that now.
I suppose the status of this thing, the
All right. I think that's not plugged in.
somebody's power.
Well, the good news is I figured out Google's UI in order to start the schedule the YouTube broadcast ahead of time. So that's not an issue.
Alex, can you post a link to the Hangouts in the meetup?
Sorry?
Can you post a link to the Hangouts?
Yeah, I did that. I sent it to 2 of the email addresses that I have, and it hasn't come through yet.
Yeah, if you could post it like on the channel, or you, because I'm trying to screen capture it on this laptop.
Okay, let me do this.
If you can post it to the meetup like as a message, as a like a comment, I can pull it from there.
Okay, I'm going to forward this to you, Sachin. Clearly, it's time for a new laptop. Or somebody's watching a hockey game here in the office. Fantastic. All right. Dealing with APIs. And let me just hide this. There we are. Dealing with APIs. So, and when things go bump in the night, getting creative with their failure modes, which is the more businessy way of talking about that. So I'm self-employed, and a friend of mine said, "Oh, you're a smart guy. Can you write some stuff to talk to REST APIs?" So I said, "Sure, I can do that," and of course using Perl. And so he's got a bunch of systems that he has APIs for: BigCommerce, Freshdesk, Stripe for payments, and he's running Sage Accounting, which is based on SQL Server, which is entertaining in itself because I have to remote in to do SSMS to do administrative things. But fortunately, I rarely have to do that, so that's a good thing. And I'm going to need my glasses to read my own notes here. Right, the script's run by crontab, so, you know, I said, well, I can schedule it run every 10 minutes from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., and he thinks I'm a genius, so yeah, it's just crontab. It's really nothing special. Been around for 30 years. Paul Vixie, you could look it up. So it talks to one of the APIs, maybe looks in the database, and then moves stuff around. Sometimes the scripts have communications problems. And so our story begins. There we go. So the normal operation, I'm still getting used to the whole presentation thing. So you make a request to LWP user agent, you get the response back. It's an HTTP request object. You decode the content because it's JSON, and then this works until it doesn't work, and you get a DNS failure, or the network connection has gone down, and that happens sometimes. He's, I don't know, he's in Scarborough where they have, I don't know, a lot of lightning or squirrels on the line or who knows what. Anyway, they have dual connections, and with automatic failover, that's the good news. The bad news is that once you get a problem, then if you don't have any fallback, then your thing has died and then there's an error sitting around. So what did I hear to do? So plan A was, well, I'm a smart guy, I can write something. Plan B, wiser heads prevailed. Let's look on CPAN. So the result is LWP user agent determined. I don't know if anybody's heard of this module, but basically I wanted to find something that retried, and basically it wraps LWP user agent and automatic retries failed requests. Perfect. Even with that installed, I still got occasional failures. So I wanted to find out, what kind of strategy it had. So it retries after 1 second, 3 seconds, and 15 seconds. So if your network break is longer than 19 seconds, you're toast. Okay, well, that's certainly not impossible. 3 hours, that would be unusual. But so configuration. So I set the retries much larger. I made some bigger numbers, and this stuff is not time critical. It's basically as soon as if it gets done in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, that's okay. Nothing real time has to happen. So I use the module. It works wonderfully, but I'm intrigued, he said with an arched eyebrow. How does it work? I had no idea how it works, so I thought I've got to look inside, because these things are often, they're very arcane and you barely recognize that it's Perl. So we have a diversion, my poor tired laptop. So I had a look, and this is where the big screen would have been useful. But the key line here is the module will die unless the package can underbar LM, which is basically is checking to make sure that this method is available, because that's calling LWP member mixin. And for those of you who are up to date on technology, you know what a mixin is. I did not. So another diversion to figure out what a mixin is. And a mixin is basically, and read from Wikipedia, it's a class that contains methods for use by other classes without having to be a parent class of the other classes. So basically adds methods to the original class, which is very clever. And these 5 lines, I wish you could see this on the screen, are the entire module, apart from all the other window dressing. And it's basically a getter and a setter, and it assumes that the object is a hash ref. And that's basically it, which is wonderfully simple and clean. And here we are. And the next one is very simple. The new just calls the superclass and then does its own init. And the init sets up the timing and the codes to avoid. This would be better if we could see it on the big screen. And then this is the next part, which basically just retries a bunch of times, and there's a before call and an after call, which you can set up or not. And then it looks at the response and sees if it's a normal response or if it has to retry. That's it. It's, yeah, clean, clear, to the point. It's wonderful. It's a thing of beauty. So, getting back to this presentation. So anyway, LWP user agent determine will retry the request if necessary. So now I was always getting response. The next problem, I was getting badly formatted JSON. So if you think of the ISO triangle, I was dealing with problems at level 1, I think that is. And now I'm getting problems at level 5 or 6 or whatever that is. Maybe even at level 7. So the JSON was bad. So you do the usual things, you contact support, and they ask you for the X request ID, and they give it to them, and they say, what command are you using? What time did you send it? Of course, they've got all that information in the database. And then they eventually, oh, it works for us. Too bad. You're on your own. So instead of trying to figure out what's going on, I just thought, well, that's okay. If I get bad JSON, I'll just pause and then retry it. And yeah, again, so there's basically a try catch block which sets a flag, and then I come out of the block, and if the flag is set, I just redo it. And what I wanted to show you, I wish I could, on the big screen is that I'm setting the flag inside the catch block, and then once I'm outside of the try catch, then I check, because, and this actually could be a question I'd ask the group. If I try and do a redo, a loop redo from within the catch block, I was guessing that it would be out of context and it wouldn't work. Yeah, do you know about that?
You can give a label. So in the outer block, you put the label redo me, colon, curly braces, and inside, if you do the redo, and then that label should be fine.
Yeah. Anyway, that's one of those things where I thought, ooh, I've got to check that out. I had a million other things to do, so I didn't bother. But it was one of those things that I thought, if I put this up there and don't say anything about it, somebody will say, but did you know? Or why didn't you? Because for me, Perl, the whole thing about Perl is you write this big piece of code, and then later you realize you can shrink it, and you can shrink it some more, and then pretty soon you get something really concise, but it takes a little longer to explain to somebody. And I'm still at the point of this where it's basically meat and potatoes code, and the performance is not an issue. Nobody else is doing code reviews. It's well commented. It's Perl tidied, but it could probably be more concise. So this is an example. Anyway, I'll have to go and try this.
I sort of recall discussion at one point of a redo in a sub. You know,
yes. Now that's
a declared sub that is redoing a.
Well, that was my problem,
block.
because I wondered if the catch
And
block
I
might
think
be
it
part of
actually
the
just
sub.
unwraps the stack and goes up there and then redoes it.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to.
You know, it's
I'll have
not
to.
quite returning, going back to the parent and just taking a go-to
Yeah.
to
Anyway.
the continue stage.
Anyway, that solved the issue, and so I as part of my research, I added an after hook to say, so I added the after hook that would check to see did I get a 200 or a 204, which is a valid response. 200 is a normal response. 204 is normal response, content is empty. So if I didn't get a 200 or 204, then I would log it and go, oh my God, I got a problem. So it's been a week and I haven't seen any failures. So I'm kind of disappointed. I put all this defensive code in and it's no longer getting triggered.
One day.
One day. Yeah.
Of course. It's triggered. You've got defensive code there now.
Yeah. So it's, and I talked about this, and I'm talking on the phone with him, and I can hear his eyes glazing over. It's like, this is far too much detail. Did you fix the problem? Good. Let's move on. And I used log for Perl as my logging solution, which I absolutely love. It's wonderful. So I now have big, long log files with tens of thousands of lines in them from going back a couple months, but that's all good. This space is cheap. So defensive coding sometimes had to be done in layers. And it's funny talking to customer support because I've been at the other end of the line. And I remember having somebody explain to me that, oh yeah, there's a communication problem because there was snow on the lines. And all I could do was go, I'll have to call you back, and hung up and run outside and yell into traffic until the feeling left me.
Don't laugh too much. I get that on our cable. If it's a bad rain, we start getting dropouts.
Oh yeah.
Because it's one of the boxes is
For last line for last mile, I believe that.
Yeah.
But this is going from a business in Scarborough to a business in Mississauga.
Yeah.
And I just thought, snow on the lines, really? Anyway. That's it. That's the entire presentation. it was just kind of a fun thing. It was, I had this problem. I dug around for a solution. I implemented it. I was absolutely thrilled. And probably it's a good thing that I didn't write my own code, because that would have been a poor choice. Anyway. Okay.
The mix-in stuff, there's a standard thing in Moose that has realize that rolls.
So roles and mix-ins are the same thing.
Yep.
So when you're defining your Moose class, roll 1, roll 2,
Yeah,
roll
in
3.
Ruby, they're calling them mixin, and in Perl, it's mostly roles.
Yeah.
And
I've generally-
it's really good for configurability. Like in mine, I'll say with look up role for whatever my class name is, and so if the configuration file says, well, add these roles, because we're on a site where we need these extra manipulations.
Yeah.
Then it just merges in those methods.
And
those
boom, they
attributes
become
and
magically available.
methods. And they can put wrappers
Yeah.
on the other methods.
I've always been a bit reluctant to use Moose, just because I'm leery of the whole thing about you can make everything an object, and I'm not a fan of that approach. I'd rather just.
Well, it's a OO system, so yeah, I mean, it's going to objectify everything, and then define your object with objects that themselves can be defined by other objects, and objects all the way up.
Yeah, but when you get to something that doesn't work as an object, you write it in Perl.
Okay. Were you able to get onto the Hangout?
I cannot connect, but I was going to try the HDMI cable and see.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Is anyone online? Take a break, grab a pizza.
Yeah, actually, let's see if anybody's online, and if nobody's online. Oh, yeah, we have some people online. Excellent.
Yeah, I think it's
Pretty tight here.
Okay, go.
That's all I need. Okay, let's see.
This is the one it should be.
Okay, this is the busy one. Okay.
Or press the input button to select the input for the source device.
Can I continue?
Last time we can't find out.
Okay. Oh, Sachin's in the chat. Alan, did you figure anything out about these cables down here?
Not really, and one just sort of disappeared.
This one.
What's the speaker cable that you're pushing on now?
I did find an RJ45 floating around with not attached to anything.
Yeah, the other thing you could do is you could join the Hangouts and then screen share, right?
Yep, I should be able to do that. Do we have an open Wi-Fi?
Oh, yeah, hold it.
Don't touch anything.
If it's
Okay,
something
I just-
starts to work, yell, eh?
So, something did work and then it went away.
Yeah.
Okay, we have something.
Is that a real screen?
Yeah, I think that's mine.
Yeah, okay, we're on.
It's working?
Yes!
Yeah.
Don't
Oh my
break
God.
anything.
Nobody move.
Oh my God. I think I deserve a piece of pizza for that.
What did you do? Find the appropriate sockets?
No, I just grabbed the box and made sure all the connections were there. Okay, have you joined? Are you sharing your ski?
Oh,
So join the Hangout.
okay. Well, first, can I connect to?
Oh yeah, connect to Flight Networks.
Yep, so what's the name of the network?
It's right at the top.
Oh, yeah,
FI guest.
It's yeah, the guest one and the password is FN,
FM?
at simple,
Yep.
sorry, guest.fn. So it's,
Okay, yes. Here we go.
Pizza at a Perlmongers meeting. How wonderful is that?
Okay, now, come.
There we go.
Chimney, that looks like a chimney, that looks like a chimney, yeah, no chimney. I knew man.
I say the self-driving neural network stuff's getting a little odd there, asking about chimneys.
Okay, hang out. Sure. Oh, no, no, not as. Interesting. No. Let's do that again. No, that's not the right hangout. It could have been so much worse. Does anybody see?
It's crazy they don't have that account switcher.
Exactly. It's like, no, I don't want.
Can you just right click and open?
Let's see.
Open in a new tab, top one there.
Yeah, the thing is, it's redirect me to my Shutterstock.
Try opening it in a private window.
Oh,
Oh.
whatever. Hey.
I'm under 30, it's still.
No, no. Private.
Private window, that should work.
There we go.
Goodness.
I know. Yes, it's. And the secret number is 23. Yeah, you want Chrome.
Oh,
That's okay. I have Chrome.
Sorry, that's the first line of my notes. Launch Chrome, Firefox doesn't work.
Yes. Do you have your sound on? As in, do you have to shut mine? Going to be reverb.
There it is.
Okay, beautiful.
There it is.
Okay, beautiful.
Now you should be able to share your screen.
Yep.
Oh,
No, I already mute mine, so you should be good now.
okay.
I'm going to share one. I am sharing. There we go. Can you see my screen?
Oh, I'm screen sharing. Let me stop screen sharing. Oh,
Yep, I'm right there in the little screen there.
okay.
Beautiful. Okay. Is anybody online?
Yeah.
Do they seem to be happy?
We have Michael Portnoy, I think it is, who's online. There he
The
is.
call comes from within the house. Okay, easy.
Hi there. Everybody's here. I was expecting Foco to be all right.
Okay, then let's do this. So, thanks for having me again. This time around, it's going to be something that is fairly basic. Introduction to testing with Perl, TAP, test more, all that good stuff. And just before I begin, who already know about TAP, test more, and how to run tests? Okay.
Okay.
I'm ready.
You always learn something new with these things. Go
Yeah,
right
we'll
ahead.
see. So, and it's pretty short, and yeah, this is meant to be interactive. So if you have any questions, anything, just go ahead. So yeah, let's get started. So in Perl, we basically have an ecosystem of testing, and it pretty much revolves around TAP, which stands for the and that's basically just a format to report test results. And the beauty about that format is that it's extremely simple. Like extremely simple, I'm going to explain that slide. And after that slide, you will know 90% of what you need to know about how it works. So basically, when you report on tests with using TAP, you have first a line that is going to tell you how many tests you're expecting to run. Nice thing is that it can be at the top or at the bottom of the file. Up to a fairly recent 5.10 version, it was only at the top. Now you can also do it at the end of your testing. And yeah, that's just 3 tests to be run in my test suite. After that, for each test, you have a line that is going to tell you that, okay, that test was a success, and the index of the test to make sure that you're not skipping anything and that everything is going one after the other. The bare minimum is just okay the number. If you want to be fancy, you can have okay the number and a description. As long as the description is one line, it can be anything. String, can have Unicode, anything that you want. If a test failed, it's simply not okay. But the rest remain the same. You still have the index, you still have the description. And beside that, that begins with a pound sign is a comment. And that can be anything at all. It's supposed to be free-form. And after that, in theory, if TAP does not recognize the line, it's just going to be ignored. So basically, there you go, the whole format. There's a little bit more. You can specify the version of the tab standard that you're expecting that to be generating. But yeah, 90% of what you want is right there. There's a little bit more, as I said, in the newer Perls, and I think it's from 5.10 onward, you can have subtests. And basically, subtests are indented, and the indentation is going to have tests that are following exactly the same format. And then at the end, you're going to have one line that is going to summarize what is the results for the whole subtest. And the result for the subtest is that if everything is passed, then the subtest as a whole did pass. If not, it's a failure.
So what's the point of a subtest?
If you have a test, let's say 10,000 tests, you want to say that, okay, those first 100 are all about testing the function foo, and so on and so forth. So it's just to cut it into smaller pieces that you can say that this is dealing with that part of your code and so on and so forth. So yeah, there you have your substream, and there you have your summary of the subtest. You also have the concept of to-do. And basically, a test that is a to-do test is going to report exactly like any other one. But the command at the end of the line is going to have #to-do. And that's purely for the report generator that is going to look at that and will decide that, well, if it's a to-do and it failed, that's okay, because usually you expect your to-do test to be failing. And if it's a to-do and it passed, that's actually a welcome surprise, and then we'll notify you of those things, so on and so forth. You can also be skipping tests. That's useful if you have, for example, tests that only work on Windows, or tests that you only want to do if releasing a new version, or if you have access to the network, or if you have a specific module installed, yada, yada, yada. So basically, if it's a skip test, it always report as passing, as in, that's fine, but you add the command skip, and then the reason why you're skipping. So yeah, there we go. This is pretty much all of TAP in its glory. Now we'll see how to actually write code that is going to generate that output. If you look in Perl distributions, tests are typically under the T directory. T for test, and because 4 characters was just way too long. And the tests themselves are extension.t, again, for test, and because test was way too long. And all of them are Perl scripts. So you will see that the code inside is just going to be a regular Perl script, just using specific modules. And that's what a very simple test will look like. So you will call the module test_more. You don't have to, but test_more is used by the vast majority of modules, and it basically brings all the sugar that you will need most of the time. So use test_more. You can declare how many tests your test suite has straight from there. So here I have a single test. And I have my super complex test that verified that arithmetic still works in our universe, 1 + 1 = 2. And basically, if it works, it's going to say that the test passed with the command success. And if not, it's going to fail the test with oh no's. And if you run that, it's going to generate tab, 1 test, OK, 1, success. If the law of physics were actually broken, or that I, for some reason, thought that 1 + 1 was equal to 3, it will report that there's still 1 test expected, but it's not OK, and then we'll report oh no's. Something that is super nice, when something fails, test_more will automatically report on which line that it fails, so that gives you fighting chance to know where stuff is happening. Oh yeah, and if I actually put the wrong number of tests, let's say that I wanted to make 2 tests and I forgot to put the second one, it's going to say that, okay, that's good, but it's going to report that, no, there was supposed to be 2 tests, and there's going to be the comment at the end that, oh yeah, copy and paste. We saw before that you can put the test plan in the use statement itself. You can put it also as a different statement, plan test. And that's if you want to calculate that dynamically or do other funky things. And also in code nowadays, you can just put at the end done testing. And unless you actually dynamically generate tests and you want to make sure that you didn't make a mistake, yeah, that's good for a lot of the cases because, yeah, your number of tests is not going to change from one time to the other. Yep.
Pass and fail are keywords? Or-
Yes. Pass and fail are 2 functions that are being exported by testmore.
I've never seen that before.
No,
Obviously, it's been around.
you will see in that we all use.
What's that?
It's a better way.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah, because basically with pass and fail, you can do now anything that you want, but it's verbose. And for the same thing, now you have to have an if and an else. That's a lot of work. We don't like that. So
Yeah.
sugar time. And everything that I'm going to show now is things that you can build on top of pass and fail, but we don't have to. The one that everybody use, okay. Basically, okay takes a condition, and if the condition is true, it passes, and if the condition is false, it fails.
Hex should be octal, right? Oh, okay, sorry.
It fails one way or the other. So yeah, now we don't have to go pass and fail. We have okay right there.
Wow.
Yeah, that's already much cleaner, but we can do better because
It's also, the comments are more meaningful this time.
exactly.
Pass, oh no, doesn't tell you much about why. What was I trying to
That's
tell?
like something bad happened.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
But right now we know that it's an X, right? But we don't know what is the value we're expecting and which is the value we're observing. And this is where is entering the picture. So is going to take the value that we observed, the value that we're expecting, a description, and it's doing the same thing as okay, but now if it fails, it's going to tell you that, well, you got that and you were
So-
expecting that.
The arrow is just acting like a fat comma here.
Yeah. I'm fancy that way.
Sorry.
Nice thing to know is do string comparison. So sometime with numbers that could lead to unexpected results if you do a string versus a number. But yeah, in most of the time that's just nice enough. When it's not nice enough, oh, before I do that, for is there's also the reverse, isn't it?
Yes.
So, and for a lot of the comparison, I'm not going to mention all of them, but there's almost always the inverse that negate the same thing. And most of them, when you have something that you're observe, expect, description, is always going to be in that order. So for example, here, isn't it, you expect what it seems to be not what it seems, but in this case, it is. So.
Anything else?
Yeah, if you want to compare using something else, so if you want to use a numerical equal, or if you want to use greater, lesser, so on and so forth, you have compare OK. And there, you actually, I observe the comparison operator that you want and the value that you're expecting. And it's going to, again, give you nice report on the two of them. For regular expressions, because we love our regular expressions. You have like and unlike. So, yep, you put your regular expression there. Everything's fine. When you have deep structures, you have is deeply. In a couple of slides, we're going to see something that is even better than that. But if you have exactly the structure you're expecting, that's going to do it for you. And if you want to do subtest, the way that you do it, subtest, the name.
This is my,
And it's just like a mini test, so you can put a test plan in it. If you don't put it, by default, it's going to do an implicit done testing at the end. Yeah. And yeah, basically, so if you have something that you want to test, but passing one parameter different every time, you can put a subtest in a for loop, and that's going to be nice. Sometime you want to put some explanation in your in between your test, or when your tests are failing. Of course, you could do a print and put a hashtag at the beginning all by yourself. But there's corner cases, and that's kind of unsightly. So the tag that just basically will prepend your string with the hashtag, the pound sign, and format it properly, and explain that is just an alias to data dumper. And yeah, as soon as you use that, it's going to add those comments in your output. And something that is nice to know is that all those functions that output something is okay, like so on and so forth. When they fail, they return 0. When they pass, they return 1. So if you want your diagnostic to only appear when to give more information, you can do OK blah, or if it fails, put the diagnostic yada yada yada.
that's brilliant.
If you want to mark some tests as to-dos, you just populate the the global variable to-do with whatever you want. So in a block, you will just do a local to-do such that it just automatically clean itself up out of the scope. And test_more is going to take care of adding the pound sign and to-do blah, blah, blah after your test results. If you want to skip, a little more fancy, you just give the skip label to your block. And at the beginning of your block, you have to skip, give a reason, and how many tests you're going to skip. So for example, if I didn't want those tests to run on a Sunday, I will skip those 2 tests unless it's Sunday, or it's not Sunday, and then run them. How to run those wonderful tests? As I said, it's purely Perl scripts. So you just do Perl, the name of the test, and it's going to output the tab for you. But of course, usually in your T directory, you're going to have more than one file. So you could always loop, again, that's work. There's proof that is there to do that. So at its bare bone, proof T is going to look into your T directory, going to look for all the files that end with .t, going to run them. There's a lot of arguments that are there to make things more easy. For example, when you run tests in your Perl modules, you always have your local modules under lib, and you want to make to include those.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were just going to run Perl, to be capital I lib. With proof, you have -l, that is for lib. Same way, if you actually compile stuff and you use makefile.pl and that stuff, -b is going to look in blib.
It's, yeah, verbose. I'm curious, do I have t/doublestar.t? What's the double star for?
Oh, that's fish shell. It's looking recursively through many directories. So if in your T you actually have subdirectories for other tests, proof, yeah, I'm pretty sure proof by default is going to recursively look under all of those for test files.
Right. Okay. Because I guess the the line with Perl in it, I assume the shell would do the double star expansion.
Yeah. Yeah, in the second line, that's the shell that will take care of it.
I think there's some other utilities that also use something. I think Ant uses something like that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's a couple of, I don't know if Z shell does it, but yeah, it's out there. Something that, now, for a couple of the arguments that we use less often but are super cool, Proof can do parallel runs. So if you can tell a utility that I have 4 processors, it's going to take all the files and it's going to send them on 4 parallel runs and going to generate all your tab out of that.
Speed things up on your Raspberry Pi.
Indeed. Well, no, the Raspberry only have 1 processor.
No?
No?
The latest model has 4.
Nice.
Wow.
The parallelization works on a file by file basis. So if you put all your tests in a single file,
This will do nothing.
exactly.
Or if you use the same temp files in multiple tests, then they'll start fighting with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to
that
take
would
a
be
little
bad.
bit and
Dummy database.
And now something that not a lot of people know, but that is very, very cool when you have a huge amount of tests. Proof to actually save the result of your test run in a mini database. So yeah, you will first do proof state save, and it's going to run all the tests, going to save the result in .proof in the current directory. And after that, you can say, okay, now run everything that has failed at the last run, and then save the result after that. Which means that you first run your whole test suite, and the next time you just run those that failed at that time. And hopefully, in the meantime, you fix some stuff, so it's going to save the new state.
So instead of having to run, spend 15 minutes running all 10,000 tests, you do that once, and then you can go back and just run the 3 that failed.
Exactly.
The 3 that, or basically the 3 test files.
The 3 test files. Yeah, it's always on a test file basis.
Right, that makes sense.
And so all the keywords that state can use is save, to save the state where we are, to rerun the last run that we did as is, to only run the tests that are marked as failed, only run the test that has passed, if you want to feel good about it. Restart and run all of them. Run the UT test, which is the one that failed the latest. Oh. So if you have something that failed 3 runs ago, it's not going to be run, it's going to be run after the one that just failed right now. Only run the to-dos. Begin by running the tests that take the most time first and then go to the fastest. That's only really if you like pain, but you can do the fast first and then go to the slowest, slower and slower. Only run the new test, the one that appeared since the last run. Only run the old test. And I don't remember what fresh is.
Updated test?
Yeah,
Changed.
there we go.
Sorry, what?
Updated?
Changed.
Ah,
You edit the test file, it's no longer. The fact that it passed before after you edit the script.
Cool.
So
It's safe to trust it.
yeah, and you can put them in that you want. So for example, if you run it that way, you're going to first verify the test that failed recently, then run all the new since the last run, and then go from the fastest to the slowest, and then save your state and be ready for the next time.
cool.
So for continuous integration, that can be good. Mostly if you put hooks to actually abort as soon as something fails. Also, when you develop, you just want to take care of what was failing, and you don't want to rerun the whole thing before finding that, oh yeah, still failing. And yeah, and look at the main page of proof. There's a lot of other things. Yeah, I said that everything is being outputted in TAP. Proof can export that into many other formats. So if you play with Jenkins and with JavaScript and other things, you can output your test result in JSON. You can archive your test result automatically in tar files. You can add some RNest and other things. And talking of RNest and other things, I'm going to cover very quickly a couple of useful test modules. Since CPAN is CPAN, there's a lot of them. And if there's anything that you think that might be useful about testing, it's probably out there. The first one, when I was talking about is deeply is nice when you know exactly what to expect. But very often when you talk about deep structures, you just want to verify a couple of things. Like you just want to see that, okay, this is a sub hash and it at least have the key foo, and I don't care what else it has. And that's what compare deeply is about. So for example, here you will say, okay, I have my thing. In my thing, I want to have the key foo, and foo has to be a hash that at least has the key quotes that is equal to 1. And I want to have bar that is array ref, and begin after that, I don't care. So, and test deep has a lot. You have super hash up, you have bag up, which is like an array, but unsorted. So you can say that, okay, I just want the array somewhere to have the value bar, but don't care where it is. Yeah, for deep structure, this is extremely useful. For exceptions, it's not out of the box with test more, but there's test exception that has throws OK, where you can compare. You can say that, okay, run that test, run that code, and it's supposed to send a die statement that has that regular expression in it. You can also compare with objects. If you just want to know that it dies, you can do dies OK. If that the code don't explode, you have live OK. That just make sure that it runs. You can also check the warning the warn statements with that. And if you just want to check that your code don't burp out any warns for no good reason, you can just put at the top, use test warnings. And if there's no warning, it's going to, at the end, add that OK and say that there was no unexpected warnings. But if something warns, it's going to fail the test and we will tell you where that happened. Something that I love, there's a test Perl critic that is going to run Perl critic on your files, which is nice. But that has a problem that usually when you decide to run that, it's probably on a code base that already exists, that is already of a certain size. And if you just begin with Perl critic, it's probably going to give you 10,000 different transgressions that you have to fix right now. And you're going to say, screw that, you're going to delete the test and never use it again. This is a little more gentle approach. What it does is that it's going to check with Perl critic, but as long as it's not worse than the previous test run, it's going to pass. And you can actually set the parameter to say that either it must not be worse, or you have to improve every single time. So that's a way to get into, okay, we won't put a policy in place, but yeah, let's not just do everything at the same time.
Oh.
You were talking about networks and stuff. You have Mechanized, that is a user agent to interact with the web.
Yeah.
And something that wraps it for testing, there's test Mechanized. And basically, you have all the goodness of Mechanized, and you have the same functions with OK and and so on and so forth tag at the end. So if I want to run a test on my website, I can say that, okay, I'm going to create my agent. I'm going to go to my blog site that I get that page and it's not a 404 or a 500. I'm going to verify that the title has hacking by Fearful Symmetry in there. And so yeah, that's very nice. There is variation on that that is also working for PSGI, which is a protocol that Dancer and Modulicious and Catalyst is using. So very easy to test all those web frameworks.
Yeah, I guess there's the test Modulicious as well.
Yeah. And now moving slightly away, when you also very often want to mock things, either because your code base rely on an object that's actually talking to network, and on your unit testing you don't want to do that because that's just asking for it, or there's just pieces that you want to abstract and say no, that test is for something else. There's mini modules. One that I like is test mock object. And what you do is you create an object and you put fake functions and behaviors. So here I create my mock object, said that, okay, if somebody called the function, always return true. If somebody called does bar, always return false. If somebody called quicks, first return A on the first call, B on the second call, C on the third call, and so on and so forth. So, that way you can try and create objects that will work for the first 2 times, will fail on the third one, things like that. If you want to actually use an object that really exists, but you want to fake a couple of its calls, like let's say that you have that object that does a lot of things but doesn't talk to the network, and you just want to block that part of it, what you can do is use test mock object extend. And what you do is you say that, okay, here's the real object, return the fake, and the fake is going to have, if you see fetch from network, just return true, fake that. If you see red deer, always return a.txt, and for the rest, just use the real method of object. And I wanted to mention that there's a couple of testing framework that exists that use object-oriented type of system. One that is kind of popular right now is test class moves. And it's a different way of doing your test. In this case, what you do is that you will create a class and you will label some of the methods of your class as to being test to be run, and it's going to be just like a mini test. And attributes of the object are going to be fixtures that you can use. It can be useful. To be honest, very often it's just way too overcome. It's very, very complex, and if you don't need it, don't use it. A big code base, or you want to basically have your main object and add tests to it, it's a way of doing it. But every time that I try to use it, it just proved to be more complicated for not a lot of gain. But it's there. There's also subroutine or test subroutine, I think, that is written by Ricardo Sines. There's a few other ones inspired by the JavaScript frameworks and the like. So there's a little bit for everybody. And I think that was the last slide that I had. So any questions?
Yes, I think you sort of answered it in a way, but I was looking at the level of testing that we're doing, that essentially this is for testing routine, subroutines and so on, rather than running an entire program and checking the results. Would that be a fair assertion? Okay. Because that wasn't entirely clear. It looks, the way some of the presentations, it sort of implied that you could run a Perl program to check the results.
I think it's a test command or something like that. I've used it once.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you can do.
But it may be platform specific. I'm not sure.
You can run anything that you want. As I said, that's a Perl program. So, I mean, usually you will use that in unit tests and you will try to test things separately because when you hit some problem, it's much easier to know where to fix your stuff. But as I said, under the test namespace, you have a lot of things, and some of them are actually to run programs and tell you, okay, what is the return value? It's going to capture game out of it, and so on and so forth. I'm thinking, for example, I have a couple of modules that are applications, command line applications, git cpan patch, for example. And it's using some of those modules to test the whole system. So, okay, if I run git cpan patch blah, what does it do? Does it return success? Does it print what I'm expecting it to print, so on and so forth?
Where's the presentation? If you want to sit down and read and understand what.
I'm pretty sure there's a few sections in Modern Perl about testing. Chromatic, a long time ago, wrote a book about Perl testing that is pretty good, and it couldn't be available by now.
Well, Modern Perl it's available online.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one is available online for sure.
Yeah. But you said there's another. He's wrote another one. Or?
I made Ovid Poe, I think. I'm thinking of the blue test book. And the man page for test more. It's already going to get you pretty far.
To get that if you install it.
It comes with Perl. Test more, yeah.
Yeah. You can also read the test more page on CPAN. That actually walks you through, starting from the simple tests, you walk through it and go further. Typically, what I've always used testing for is to test a module. Test a script itself is a bit tricky because you basically want to call the various methods in a module to exercise a certain piece of information. And a script is just a script by itself. It doesn't have any, like if there's just a single brace and you want to test the code in that, it's difficult to do that.
I've done this on like simple utilities that go to reading a bunch of files. So I may set up something or make a directory read-only to check that it determines the errors. So there's a test command or something. You could possibly then invoke the script and you want to check that it returns with a failure.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think it's test command.
A question. Do you think it makes sense to parallelize the tests beyond the number of processors?
No, if you parallelize more than the number of processors, it's not going to give you anything more because.
So you don't think the operating system will schedule more of the process, like schedule more of the processors, like or just occupy?
Yeah, well, I think what's going to happen is that let's say that you have 4 processors and you try to parallelize on 5. It's going to run 5 at the same time, but the computer itself can only run 4 at the same time. So at the CPU level, it's going to say, wait a second for the 5th one. So at the end, it's going to give you, it should give you the same performance.
But you have multiple things running in the system, right? Like multiple processes. So if you create more processes for testing, won't they get scheduled on production? Yeah,
you should see what is the sweet spot. But yeah, I expect at some point it's just going to level up.
Yeah.
If not, you could just put 10,000 like that.
If what you're testing has lots of wait time, where it's get this web page, do this, update the web page, get another one, do this, so it's waiting for interactions, then sure, one process you can run one till it's waiting for a get, and then run another, and then run another.
So the operating system will switch it out from.
Yeah, the operating system does that.
Yeah.
Say gaps, and it says, oh, okay, give me the next input on this channel. There you go. You go to sleep. I'll run somebody else. Same way it does if there's 50 users sharing a computer, or if you're busy waiting for a file. Except that is likely to be as soon as you start getting multiple programs all waiting for files, and they interfere with each other.
I think you start to run into a deadlock in that case.
Yeah. But if it is things that are interacting with devices that don't interfere with each other, you might be able to get more than number of processes.
And I just want the tab is a standard for generating reports, and it's permissive in Perl, but it also exists in JavaScript. There's library to do testing using or generating tab at the end. There's some libraries that exist for different shells, so you can actually have tests and shells that generate tab. There's probably some in Ruby and Python as well. So it's a very, very bare bone format, as you've seen, but it does its job very, very well.
Yeah, certainly it's very reassuring when you install a new module and it downloads the file, it unpacks it, and then it runs the test script against your installation. So that once everything passes, you can be really pretty certain that you've got a good piece of code that works as intended. There are not too many other languages that do that.
And they're being called and used.
Yeah.
Any C breakouts have been compiled correctly and with your compiler and your system.
For your machine, so it should work perfectly, as opposed to downloading some blob and then you're not sure exactly if it's safe or if you've got the correct blob. Instead, if you've got the source code, you've got the compiler and linker, and it builds it right there in front of you, okay, that's going to work.
And I think that Perl is pretty much right now the only language that has that ecosystem of generating the tests as you install it. I mean, it's nothing that is special about it. Any other languages could implement the same thing, just that they don't right now.
Some things do if you build it as opposed to installing it from blob. If you install from source, then you're off the you can elect to do testing. Run the test.
Wasn't it NPM recently that they discovered some possibly malicious code?
Oh, the BitTorrent, but the Bitcoin, thank you. Yeah, that was pretty clever. Yeah, at Infinity, we're talking about that because it was well done. Totally evil, but well done. So there's one module that is used by pretty much everybody. And that's a good story because it's not something that can only happen in JavaScript, can happen everywhere else. So event stream, and the guy who created that was not using it much nowadays. So he got a random guy that appeared like adopt your module. And the guy went, sure, why not? So the second guy did a small change to the module. And basically, it was just importing a different module that sounded like it was doing stuff having to do with promises, so nothing horrible. But if somebody went and followed and looked at the second module, they could see that it has just been created recently. It's used by no one, something smells fishy. But he put the reference to that module. A couple of days after, he reverted it and upped the version to the next major version. So if anybody actually looked at the code on GitHub on the latest version, they will just see that everything seems to be fine. If they will look at the history, they will see that, yeah, he went and used that module and probably optimized things away and reverted, so it looks fine. But in JavaScript, when you install stuff, you your dependencies to the major version that you're using right now. So people that will be curious enough to see the latest version will maybe not think of looking back to the version that is pulled by their own teams. And yeah, that second module was actually was doing what it was supposed to do, but also was looking at the node module installed on the computer. And if it found the second library that had to do with Bitcoin, I think it was trying to steal your wallet.
Oh, not actually generate Bitcoin, to steal somebody else's wallet. Oh, boy.
So, and yeah, I mean, it could very well happen also on CPAN because everything is so based on trust. And I mean, very often I contact people and said, oh, I'm using your module and I want to submit a patch. Can I just adopt it? And usually they say, sure. And well, I will not say not evil, but not that evil. So,
Not evil in that way.
yeah. And also with Perl, usually you have the code as is. With JavaScript, oh yeah, that was another level of evil. Not only usually you have the code, but you also have the minimized code, because often JavaScript have a version that you can use on the browser that is all squeezed,
Memoized, yeah.
and makes it even harder to read than Perl.
Of course. Oh.
So I think that the evil module actually have Inoculus version as the real code, but the minified version is something more.
Yeah, okay, that's
So-
another level of evil.
So yeah, you will look at the code and say, yeah, it's a boring module, but now if you look at minimize, you will see it once again. And of course, the evil portion of minimize was using ASCII encoding so that you will not see the thing as is, but oh yeah.
It's a good question. So like one of the things you always pay attention to now, at least I do, is just NPM audit, make sure that all the modules don't have any audit flags at least. Is there an equivalent to that for CPAN somewhere?
Somebody last year tried to put that. I think it's one of the Russians.
Trustworthy.
Clearly a crazy Russian.
But the guy that did the Go website a couple of years ago, but yeah, I don't think that it has a lot of traction. But yeah, there was, because yeah, it's just because it didn't happen yet, and maybe it's not as easy and. But yeah, we can do with CPAN, and I can do it better.
Obfuscation in Perl is not
No.
used right in Canadian Conway.
Acme bleach, and there you go. It's an empty file.
Yeah.
So yeah, with Ruby and no, with Gem, that will be just as easy. So
Great. All right, well, I guess this draws the meeting to the close. The only thing I wanted to talk about was, so typically in December we have a social, and we just go somewhere and drink beer and chat and whatnot. No technical talk. We've gone to Say What the last couple of times. It seems to be a good place. It's near Jarvis and Front, so it's quite close to Union Station if you're coming from out. So I'll suggest that on the mailing list and see if we can get it. And if there are people interested, then I'll contact the place and make sure that we have a reservation for, I don't know, 8 or 10 or 12. We can get together and chat about, Perl stuff or other stuff. Right.
Like, can I still steal the screen for a few seconds? We wanted to discuss how to do a fork and share code on GitHub, so I just wanted to show him quickly an example.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead. You saw the channel.
Okay, before I begin, you know how to use Git on the command line?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go and then
Doing some experiments, I discovered one thing that is not a good idea is to make your home directory a repository, because then you get all the hidden files that
Yeah,
home
you
directory contains. It might
probably
be-
don't want to do that.
Okay, so basically, because the question was, what is a pull request and how does it work? So basically, that's how you ask a module author to bring in your changes in their own code base. So
Well, these aren't changes. These are like ab initio files.
what kind of files?
Well, the file, the sample code generation programs that I showed a couple of meetings ago.
Right.
I was thinking about sending them up for the Advent calendar, Bill 6 Advent calendar. And I asked for the instructions and was told to submit a pull request. Well, how does that work, given that my stuff?
Well, I think probably what you do is you clone the repo you want to add to. You make your own branch. You put your stuff in that branch, and then you.
And then make the request.
And then,
Exactly.
Anyway, that's
No, I think that, yeah. So here we have the Perl Advent Calendar. So you would fork it as a copy for yourself. And there you will see that it's going to be your username and then Perl Advent. You download that to your machine, you edit your branch, you push back your branch. And once that happens, I think I already have a fork. Of course, I already have a fork. So you will say that, okay, my branch that is called CGI expand, I want to make a new pull request. And now it's going to create that interface that says, this is your branch, you're going to put a little description of what it is. And the main repo is going to get that in their pull request bin, and they can merge your branch or ask you to bring some changes in it.
So the pull request is actually executed by, it's an instruction to Git or to GitHub.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or it's an instruction of the owner of the main repository to
it's
pull
an-
from you.
It's an offered update. And then the maintainer or the maintainers can look at it and discuss it and just figure, yeah, this is useful, and we'll merge it. And then
Is there a button, the pull request button?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
New pull request.
Oh, okay. Oh, so given the basic process, I think you can probably figure out the details. It was just what. But just as a piece of history, in 1968 or thereabouts, there was a software company in London called Hoskins promoting what they called segmented level programming. The idea was you'd write COBOL modules, which could then be tested using their test harness program, which you would supply values and expected results.
Mm-hmm.
And it needed the COBOL at the time, I don't know if it still has it, you could have a section where you could pass down some space to another to a module, and then in the module you could define what that space looked like. So it was essentially a map overlay. it seems to blow, I suspect that eventually died because it blew the minds of COBOL programmers. But it enabled you, in fact, to produce what I think were effectively objects.
COBOL objects.
Yes. Because, for example, with files, you would only reference a file inside the module behind it. So you had to have the open, the read, the close, and pass back. So you could and I did define have a module which was the entire references to files, and if you wanted a record from that file, you would simply reference that module. If the file wasn't open, it would open it. It would read the file. If it reached end of file, it would close it. And so it simply became basically a data stream from the.
Interesting.
But the parallel with the test harness is just almost too strong to.
Okay, I'm just going to close the broadcast.